Today I want to take a moment to address a topic that I have seen come up time and time again in gun videos. And it happened a couple of times in one of my videos recently. It's happened in a lot of my videos recently, actually, where people accuse me and other gun owners of being racist. And they make this assumption or assertion that being a gun owner means you're probably a racist. Now, when people ask me, are gun owners racist, I have to say, well, of course they're racist. They're also bigots, adulterers, rapists. They're everything that a human being can be that is bad, because they're just people. They're everyday, ordinary people, so every bad thing a person can be, well, of course, some gun owners are those things. But of course, they're also community leaders, spiritual leaders, philanthropists. They're everything good that a person can be, too. It's not whether you own a gun that determines whether you're a racist or not. It's your character that determines whether you're a racist or not. Now, that's not saying that if you rephrase the question, I wouldn't say, are racists more likely to own a gun, because that's a different question. Now, people always make this mistake of confusing statistical indicators with causality relationships. That's not the case. Just because two things happen at the same time, or just because being in something is more likely to make you something else, that doesn't necessarily mean you are, and it doesn't mean that thing caused you to be. It's kind of like, it gets a little confusing, and it's kind of like saying, just because you drive in your BMW out to a rented field and put on full camo and run around in full, battle gear to do a 45-minute on a video on a $12 knife, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have a small penis and that you used to play hide the pickle with your camp counselors. It's just an indicator that it's more likely. It doesn't cause that. So, like I say, it gets confusing. Because, like I say, if you rephrase the question to say, are racists more likely to own a gun? Well, I did some research on that when I was in college for a paper I did. And it turns out that, racists are more likely to buy firearms. But it's not because of the firearms themselves. It's because of, look at all the negative traits that most racists have. Most racists are racist because they're insecure. They're frightened. They feel oppressed. They feel powerless. Those are all things that also fall into the same category of the wrong reasons to own a gun. And we all, as gun owners, know people that own guns for the wrong reason. So yes, those negative feelings, that feeling of powerlessness, that feeling of oppression, those things do drive people to buy something that they think might even the field a little bit. And guns are great equalizers. So people that are racist, that do have those negative traits, they do tend to gravitate more towards guns. But that doesn't mean owning guns makes them racist. They just are more likely to buy a gun because they're already racist. It's kind of like a study that was done not too long ago that has been since discredited widely, that stated that, smoking marijuana makes you more likely to develop mental illness. And the study was completely backwards. It did that same thing. It confused indicators with causality. It's not that people who smoke marijuana were more likely to become mentally ill, because when you do the test where you take people that are not mentally ill and you make them smoke marijuana, they don't increase any rate of mental illness. What it is people that are already mentally ill are far more likely to smoke marijuana. They're more likely to self-medicate. They're also more likely to be alcoholics, things like that. So the marijuana wasn't causing the mental illness. The mental illness just made it more likely that they used marijuana. There's a certain pattern there. There's a succession of events there. The mental illness came first, which made them more likely to do marijuana, not the other way around. And guns are the same thing. Yes, if you're a racist, you might be more likely to buy a gun. But owning a gun or buying a gun doesn't make you, as a person, any more likely to be a racist if you weren't one already. So this whole notion that you can tie an inanimate object to an entire negative stereotype of people is just, it's a little bit ridiculous. You have to understand cause and effect. You have to understand just likely indicators here. It is a true statement that you can sometimes say, if someone, it's like saying, if someone owns a mutter truck and has a rifle rack in their back window, they are more likely to be a redneck than if they didn't. But having those things didn't make them a redneck. They were already a redneck when they bought those things. So you can't blame guns for racism. And you can't use guns as a scapegoat. Stop trying to use inanimate objects as a scapegoat for people's own personal failings. Address the failings of the individual and don't try to lump things onto an inanimate object, like I said. So there's my opinion on the whole topic of guns and racism. Yes, racism exists in the gun community, exists in all communities. And it may even exist at a little bit higher rate simply because some racists are drawn to the gun community. But the gun community doesn't create racists.